Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to rise in the House this afternoon to talk about the bill S-202, an act to amend the Parliament of Canada Act, better known as the Parliamentary Visual Arts Laureate. This a Senate bill, as you all know, proposes to establish a new officer of the Library of Parliament called the Parliamentary Visual Arts Laureate, and to give that position a term of up to 2 years. This new officer would be tasked with creating works of arts for Parliament and engaging with visual arts communities from coast to coast. The Parliamentary Budget Officer assumes the overall cost of a Visual Artist Laureate will be in the neighborhood of $100,000. This is based on the cost of the already established Parliamentary Poet Laureate position that we have. I and my Conservative colleagues support the arts in this country, the culture and the diverse heritage of Canada, and through my work the past 8 years on the Canadian Heritage Committee, I've had many opportunities to learn from Canadians and demonstrate that support. My colleagues on this side of the House and I on the Heritage Committee have heard many witnesses testify from the arts community who are struggling financially, and we've made common sense suggestions to the government legislation to support these artists in our country. Unfortunately, though, I've been disappointed by the lack of support by this Liberal government for the online content creators who, Madam Chair, let's make no mistake, are really artists themselves. So Bill C-11 threatened some of these artists, and no amount of testimony or discussion has caused the government to even give this issue a second look. This is an avoidable mistake, Madam Speaker. We heard many artists come to committee to talk about the online streaming bill that gave them the opportunity to connect not only in their community, not only in this country of Canada, but worldwide. These are the same artists and creators that have made a name for themselves but are now being censored, and this government moved closure last night on Bill C-11. Even the Senate agreed when they looked over the bill for months. C-11, they recommended 26 amendments. This was a huge issue in the Red Chamber. The government refused 8 amendments which dealt with censorship. These are artists who may never have a chance at making $100,000 a year. But like the Senate bill, it's all about freedom of expression. It's interesting that S-202 doesn't refer to it, because when they were studying another creative bill, it was all about limiting the freedom of expression. So with regard to this legislation, Bill S-202, I will remain optimistic and open-minded. I will listen to members who will no doubt deliver thoughtful remarks, and I will listen to all Canadians. But, Madam Speaker, I will remind everyone it is Canadians who will bear the brunt of the cost of this bill, and I will listen closely to hear their thoughtful views. Madam Speaker, I regularly send information into my writing requesting feedback. I am never disappointed by the range of opinions and carefully considered comments that we get back. I learn something every time, actually, we send out a mailer and interact with our constituents. Canadians, as we all know, are very smart, and I trust them to make very good decisions about how we spend their money here in Parliament. We will get that opportunity to hear from Canadians when this bill goes to committee. We will hear from witnesses and gather more information. For an example, was there a demand for the creation of this position in the first place? And what work is expected to be produced by this individual in this position? How would this individual be selected? Would the work produced reflect Canadian values that we can be proud of? Is there any limitations on their work? See, some of the questions we're talking about here today is what we need to find out in committee. These are just a few important considerations. Canada, as we all know, is rich in talent in every artistic field. I've been privileged to travel to every coast of this country, and I can tell you, Canadians are creating art every day in every way across this great country. My office in Saskatoon, in fact, is decorated with meaningful art pieces from talented Canadians, including my own wife, Anne. The late Bob Pitzel from Humboldt has a number of paintings that I cherish in Saskatoon and here in the Ottawa office. Anne and I have supported artists for years, buying their treasures, helping out nonprofit organizations like Artists Against Hunger as they raise money for local charities in our city of Saskatoon. There is no shortage of creativity and talent, like I said, in Canada. In fact, I had an opportunity to visit Stornoway just before Christmas, and that, of course, is the resident of the leader of the opposition. And I was pleased to see on the wall a painting from the late Alan Sapp, an artist from Saskatchewan. And it was one of the paintings from his catalog that actually I tried to purchase for myself had it been available, and there I see it on the wall of the opposition at Stornoway. Did you take it? So I guess I can't take that picture back home with me. But you see, Alan Sapp, who passed away unfortunately in 2015, is an Indigenous artist back then, and he really set the table in our province for art. In fact, if you go to the city of North Battleford, there is a museum that I think all Canadians should go through. Alan Sapp was one of the finest painters that this country has ever seen. So could a collection of artists who are already creating art contribute their work in order to fulfill the goal of this bill, S-202? I just throw that out there. These are options that we might consider before creating a new and executive post. This bill proposes mandating a Visual Arts Laureate to promote arts here in Canada. Madam Speaker, Canadians have been doing this since the birth of this nation, some 150 plus years without even a mandate. Art is an amazing thing. Creativity does not need to be mandated. COVID was particularly difficult, I think, for artists in this country. It was difficult for everyone, but certainly that area of artists. They could not show their work, and it was very tough on them. But we heard from them at Heritage Committee. This is a sector that I would like to hear from on the idea of a Visual Arts Laureate. They will provide a level of understanding that should be heard. When the reckless spending and the runaway debt under this current government, it makes sense to hear from Canadians and see what they want. Do they feel this is value for money, or do they have other priorities for the arts funding in this country? Is this the best way to support artists in Canada? And is this the best time to create new expenses in this country? I would like to thank my honourable colleague from the other place, the senator from Manitoba, for this bill. I think we can all agree that members support in this House the arts and culture and diversity. There are many ways to support that priority in Canada. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would just like to thank some of the artists from my city, the late Hugo Alvarado, along with Cam Forrester, who has had a group in our city, Men Who Paint. They have several exhibitions. They're a fabulous group of artists in Saskatoon. They do tremendous work and volunteer their time for workshops which help, I think, younger artists to get involved. Cheryl Tuchtalan, Ernie Scholes, Indigenous. He does so much in our city, volunteering items for promotion at fundraising events. Lorna Lamuth, Laurel Shenstead-Smith, Marion Phaneuf. I could go on and on. Madam Speaker, thank you for your time on S-202.